Hi everyone and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you are new to my channel. So today, of course, we're going to continue our 1980s horror series, specifically 1980 horror movies, and we're going to jump into a little Italian zombie cinema here, and that is Hell of the Living Dead from 1980, which is part of this two-pack Blu-ray Underground collection. It's part of, but I also have this with Rats from 1984, so I'm sure I'll get to that when I get to that year. But yeah, it's a Blue Underground um, version, two-pack here. So Hell of the Living Dead, I knew absolutely nothing about going into. Um, all I knew is that it was directed by what's his toes. Um, Claudio Fergaso. No, he's not the director. That's I think he's a producer. Sorry, let me just get my note. Bruno Mattei. That's who I was looking for. Bruno Mattei. Who this is the first movie that I've seen with him as director. So I wasn't as familiar with his work, although I've heard the name before in Italian horror. Um, but yeah, I think him and uh, him and Claudio Fergaso, I think, worked on other things together. The story's by Claudio Fergaso, so he's the writer, I would assume. But let's just go ahead and get into Hell of the Living Dead, which goes under about 8 other titles as well. I think it's Night of the Zombies, it's Virus. There's 4 or 5 other names too, but we're just going to go with Hell of the Living Dead, which is a 1980 Italian horror exploitation film directed by Bruno Mattei or Mattei, I don't know how you pronounce it. The film is set in a laboratory in Papua New Guinea that releases a dangerous chemical, turning the technicians and locals into zombies. A French news reporter and her crew land on the island to investigate. So basically, it opens as a top secret chemical research facility called Hope Center Number One. A rat causes a chemical leak and dies. As 2 workers investigate, the rat suddenly comes back to life and kills one of the men, who likewise revives and attacks his co-workers. Subsequently, the entire staff of the plant turns into flesh-eating zombies. A 4-man team of Interpol commandos consisting of Lieutenant Mike London, Osborne Zantoro, and Vincent are deployed to eliminate a group of eco-terrorists who have taken hostages at the U.S. Embassy in Barcelona, Spain. The terrorists demand the closing of all the Hope Centers, which both the government and the military deny exist. Under orders of the local authorities, the press does not publicize the terrorist demands or mention the disaster at Hope Center. After another team pumps tear gas into the building, Lieutenant London and his 3 commandos burst in, killing the terrorists. Once the mission is completed, the team loses contact with Hope Center Number One. Thinking that terrorists have infiltrated the complex, the team flies to Papua New Guinea. There they meet journalist Leah Razu and her cameraman Max, who are investigating a series of mysterious violent attacks on the locals. While stopping at a native village, they encounter several zombies. So that's the setup and the premise for Hell of the Living Dead from 1980. As far as the cast goes, we have Margit Evelyn Newton as Leah Raso, Franco Garofalo as Zantoro, Ceylon Correa as Vincent, Jose Gross as Lieutenant Mike London, and Gabby Renham as Max. So I think I did pretty good with those foreign names. But yeah, anyway, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for Hell of the Living Dead from 1980. This movie's pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you, and upon initial watch of it, for which of course this was the first time I'd ever seen it, I really didn't like it all that much. But doing some research and realizing exactly who Bruno Mattei is, as far as the kind of movies he does, sort of the batshit crazy Italian movies, upon sitting on it for a day or so, I wouldn't say that I like it, but I don't hate it. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with the things that I liked about it. And the biggest thing that stands out to me from a positive standpoint has to do with the practical gore effects. There's a lot of flesh ripping, zombie eating body parts scenes, And I think all that stuff's done pretty effectively. This was a very small budget movie, as we'll get into more with my review. But with the money that they did have, they clearly put it into the gore, and that was smart on their part, I think. Because it does have some really good practical gore and makeup effects, especially the look of the zombies, or those affected, I think is quite good. Not all of them, but some of them are just sort of blue-faced with paint around the eyes. But some of them have a really good zombie kind of look to them, and I thought that was effective. Again, especially for a no-budget type of movie. I thought some of them were effectively creepy as far as the look. Also, the flesh ripping and the body part eating looks quite real and disturbing. Especially the kid that's eating his dad towards the beginning of the movie in the truck. I thought that was probably the most unsettling scene, the most disturbing scene. And part of it is I think the kid actually does a better job acting like a zombie than a lot of the adults do in this movie. So kudos to him for that. And also some of the other deaths towards the end with some of our commandos and main characters is really effective from a gore standpoint, from a zombie attack standpoint. This movie should definitely satisfy the gore hounds out there, as there is a lot of it. The movie does have that sort of late 70s, early 80s aesthetic and atmosphere to it that kind of works for this type of Italian horror movie. It's sort of fun, and to me, other people have said it, but this really is the ultimate so bad it's good kind of movie. And I think it averages out to that, because I don't think the practical gore effects are so bad that they're good. I think they're good that they're good. But I also don't think that I don't think the through line here, the story and the narrative that's told is so bad it's good. I think it's just so bad it's bad in a lot of ways. But they sort of average out to be a so bad it's good kind of movie. So I can say that about Hell of the Living Dead. Now let's get into some of the cons. And most of it's from a technical standpoint. The movie really is a ripoff of Dawn of the Dead, which came out a few years before, as well as many other Italian-made zombie movies. Including the fact that, this movie advertises that the music is by Goblin. Well, Goblin didn't shoot for this movie, though. They borrowed Goblin music from other Italian horror movies. And so they kind of ripped it off in a way, you might say. I mean, apparently it's from a legal standpoint, I think. But they did borrow a lot from other movies. So there's not as much originality or real creative ideas here. So that's the first black eye. They put in a lot of various scenes of stock footage from other movies, documentaries, etc. And it's just noticeably bad. Like, it feels like 10 or 15 minutes of this movie, frankly, of the runtime. And it just felt unnecessary. I know they were probably trying to set a tone or an atmosphere with it, but you can tell that it's stock footage. I don't think it adds anything to the movie. I think it takes away more than it adds. There's some laughably bad voiceover dubbing and really bad character dialogue overall. Now, as far as the voice dubbing goes, that's not specific to this movie, because there's a lot of foreign films that are dubbed over that I don't know many that are good. They all have pretty bad dubbing, frankly. I'm kind of to the point where, maybe it's in my older age, I would almost rather watch the original release of the movie in the foreign language with subtitles. And I know I'm probably not in the majority with that. I know a lot of people don't like reading subtitles. I think as bad as some of this dub-over dubbing is, I would almost rather read subtitles. I really would. And so I'm not going to rip it as much for the bad dubbing, because that's just kind of par for the course. But there's some really bad dialogue as well that have little to do with the dubbing. It almost makes the movie more comical. And to be fair, I think this movie kind of knew what it was. It is sort of a tongue-in-cheek, comical at times, although I found a lot of comedy in the things that I don't think were supposed to be comedic. So it's, that doesn't entirely work, but not good dialogue here. Most of the acting was pretty bad, including some of the characters, the side characters who became zombies or became infected. They have really bad physical acting, very lame and lazy. It almost looks like they just spent too long of a day at a plant when they're, especially when they show like the plant scenes. This Hope Center #1, and all these scientists and staff that are affected. It was just very lazy acting, very bad acting when they're supposed to be zombies that are infected. Not scary or intimidating in the least. Like I said, there's a few exceptions. The kid actually in the truck that I already mentioned in my pros, I thought was one of the better acting zombies in this movie. And there's some other ones that are decent as well. But that was just something I noticed. In other zombie movies I've seen, this one's definitely not at the top of the list in terms of zombie acting, both physically or just their overall look and demeanor. Some of the decisions on how our main cast of characters act is laughably terrible. How they let the zombies come right up to them instead of running away or trying to shoot them when they have a gun right in their hand. They basically let them come up and actually grab them. It's like, what are you guys doing? I felt very annoyed by it, very frustrated. It's just stupid, frankly. Bad characters. There was really bad editing as well in this movie, particularly in a scene in the middle where the group is kind of turning against each other. This reporter and her cameraman, and then the commandos are kind of having it out. And there's a scene where the reporter steals a gun from one of the commandos, and the editing's so bad where they're sticking their hands up almost like she's in control, and all of a sudden they grab her and they throw the gun down. It's not edited well. It's just very bad. You have to see it. That was a scene that really stuck out, threatening one another in a quick cut that makes no sense in the storyline. So yeah, I mean, overall, guys, this is just a very discombobulated movie that has some really drawn out scenes scenes that when the zombies aren't attacking that kind of dragged for me. I was kind of bored by them. This movie definitely has some padding. I think it's around 100 minutes, anywhere from 99 to 104 minutes. It says 99 on here. It should have been about 80 minutes, to be honest with you. If they would have removed some of those drawn out scenes as well as the stock footage, which they used for some reason, this would have been a more effective 80-minute zombie Italian movie, Hell of the Living Dead. But with that being said, I don't hate the movie. I just don't like it. There's a lot better zombie movies made. There's a lot better Italian overseas foreign zombie movies made, particularly Lucio Fulci's Zombie. Now, I haven't seen all of them. I'm sure there's some other bad ones and good ones as well as I'm working my way through it. But yeah, Hell of the Living Dead. I'm not going to... It sounds like I have a lot more cons than pros, but in a weird way, this is kind of especially upon sitting on it, it is a so bad it's good kind of movie, and I could definitely see watching this again. Even though there's not a great through line here, there's not a great story. There's a lot of borrowing, a lot of stealing, a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense, but the gore is amazing. The zombie gore scenes are really good in this movie. So I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10 overall. I know that's probably a high rating considering all the cons that I had, but I think part of it just might be that I'm not as familiar with Bruno Mattei and his sort of balls to the walls, batshit crazy kind of movies that I've heard about from other reviews and from researching it a little bit. So 7 out of 10 for Hell of the Living Dead on this double pack Blue Underground Blu-ray version here. Go ahead and comment down below if you guys have seen Hell of the Living Dead by Bruno Mattei, what you think of it. Am I being too hard on it? Do you agree? Why not? Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this 1980s horror series, part of the overall 1980s horror series review, which is going to span years. And also, you don't want to miss any of my great horror content that I have coming up beyond this series when I get back into my standard DVD horror movie reviews, as well as other things that I have coming up for the rest of this year and into next year. So with that being said, I hope you guys are enjoying this 1980s review series. I hope you enjoyed this review. And as always, stay scared. Bye.